Welcome back to the fourth video in our series for creating a residential asset for city skylines. In the first three videos, we went and used Google Maps to find a reference photo for a house that we wanted to model out. Then in SketchUp, we modeled that home and created all of the textures and materials and applied them to the surfaces. And now we're going to go through 3ds Max, import the model, and make sure that it's positioned correctly and unwrap that texture so that texture is just in a single file. So when you first open 3ds Max, your windows should look just about like this. There's no customization that you need to do to this. All your property panels are on the right hand side, your layer panel is on the left hand side, and your main working area here with your tools resting on top here. We're not going to be touching 99% of this. We're just going to be making some minor adjustments. So we want to go in and open the model that we created in SketchUp. So we click Open. Navigate to the folder where we saved it, go to File Type and choose All Files, and click house.skp and click Open. Now it's going to prompt you for import options. You just want to make sure cameras and daylight systems are unselected, skip hidden objects and split objects by layer are selected, and front and back materials as double-sided 3ds Max materials is unselected. And click OK. And now we've imported our model. Navigation is similar to that of SketchUp, where you use your scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Except with this software, if you click the scroll wheel and move, you're panning. And if you hit Alt, you can orbit around the object. So you can see on the left-hand side here, we have 4 different layers. Chris is the character that we have in Google SketchUp. Guide point is a guide that we had made, and layer 2 is just some extra information. So we're just going to want to bring this down to one single layer. So we're going to just select Chris and say goodbye to him, click delete, select the guide point, click delete, and select layer 2 and click delete. Now we just have that one layer, we have one object in here with the textures sitting on here. Now we're going to want to orient the pivot point so that our model is oriented correctly in City Skylines. You can do this within City Skylines, but it's just a little bit easier here to just make sure that we're lined up correctly. By doing that, we make sure our model is selected. Go over to the Hierarchy tab here and click Effect Pivot Only. And then we get our directionals up here where we can see the pivot. First, we're going to want to rotate the pivot point. So we click the rotate button up at the top. And then down at the bottom, we have our coordinates. And all we want to do is rotate the x-axis by 90 degrees. And that tells City Skylines that this is the front of the house and the house should be facing this way. The y and z axes we can keep at 0. Now we want to move that pivot, and here we're just going to move x, y, and z down to 0. That brings us to our original origin point in Google SketchUp. But we want to make sure that this is centered on the home here. There's a couple of ways you can do it. We can just grab the x-axis handle here and kind of make a guess as to where the center of the house is, or you can go up to Settings and click Measure, and with the model selected, it'll give you the overall dimensions. We're 20 meters wide, 21 meters high, or 21 meters deep, and 5 meters high. So then you can change the coordinates down here based on these numbers. But we're just going to go ahead and drag it around and make sure we're kind of at the center there. Make sure our Effect Pivot Only is selected. And we're centering on that front door there. Then the last thing that we need to do is just drag it down here so we match to the front of this driveway, because we extended this driveway out. We don't want City Skylines to believe that this is the front of our house. We want it to understand that this is the front. So when it places the model, it places it correctly in our grid system. So we're just going to drag that out and That looks about good right there. So now this is the center of our house. It'll plop down in the center of the grid that we choose, and this will be facing front, and this will meet up as close as it can to the front sidewalk or the road. So now we turn Effect Pivot only off. Take a look at our object. Everything looks fine. So now it's time to unwrap that texture. To unwrap that texture with our model selected, we click on the Modify pane, and here we have Editable Mesh selected. We want to, right above that is Modifier List. We want to drop down the Modifier List, scroll down to the bottom, and click on Unwrap UVW. And this will help us in unwrapping this texture and getting all of this into a single file. So select Unwrap UVW, and scroll down and change map channel to 3. It'll give you a little prompt. You can say move. And then above map channel 3 there's the Open UV Editor. So if you click that button, you get a new window here where the object is sitting, but we want to flatten this down so it's all on one page. So we can go Mapping, Flatten Mapping. You can leave all of these values just as they are here. Click OK. And now the entire object's textures appear on one file sitting in here. So this is every surface that makes up all of the textures for our file. At this point we can close this window, go up to the rendering menu option, and click Render to Texture, or you can just press 0 on the keyboard and that'll launch this window. Now there's nothing you really need to worry about in here except for the output. This is what we're going to be looking at. We want to add an output. And we're just going to do a diffuse map and add elements. So now it's created our diffuse map. If it's not targeted to diffuse by default, you can change the target map slot here. And we want to indicate where we want to save this. So we click the ellipses down here, navigate to the folder that we had saved the file in, save file type as PNG, highlight this file name here, and we want to name this file exactly how we named the house model file. So we used a capital HOUSE, but then after that we want to do an _D for diffused map. So house_D dot PNG. So that is going to indicate to cities that this is going to be the diffused map. And just click Save. For a PNG configuration, do RGB 24-bit. Alpha channel can be turned off, interlace can be turned off, and click OK. We haven't saved it quite yet. That was just setting up the output settings. The next step we need to do is click 1024 by 1024. You'll see right now our size is 256 by 256, but we can go up to 1024 by 1024 for the pixel dimensions of the image file that we're going to create. So we'll just click that now, and you can see that it changed it up here. So we're exporting a diffuse map to 1024 by 1024, and then just click Render at the bottom. And then you'll get a window of all your renderings and that entire file. And you can see now why we wanted to delete the bottom of the house, something that will never be seen, but we did want to make sure that we left enough space for all of these textures, just so we can keep those textures at a reasonable file size, and they'll look pretty good in the game. So we can go ahead and close this. On the right hand panel now, scroll back down to where we had map channel and change that back to 1. As soon as you do that, you'll get the prompt again, the warning. You can just click move, and you'll see all the textures stripped away from the object. But now we have to tell the model that it's not going to be applying any textures. So we want to go to the Utilities tab, click on More, scroll down to the bottom, and click UVW Remove, and click OK. Now it's going to prompt you what you want to remove, the UVW or the materials, and we want to remove the materials. So we click that, and now our object has changed colors. At this point, we can save it. We need to export the file, so we click on the 3max icon up in the upper left, click Export, and we want to export it as an Autodesk FBX file. So in the Save As type, click that drop down and select Autodesk FBX. Find the folder where we originally saved the file, and we'll name it House, capital House, and click Save. Don't worry about changing any of these settings in here. All the default settings will work just fine. Click OK, and we're done with 3ds Max. See, it's a lot of small steps, and it might seem a little complex, but it's just a few button clicks, and you can get through this part, and we can move on to Photoshop. That's it for this video. Be sure to check out the next video where we go into Photoshop and edit these textures and create the illumination and specular maps for our object.